So as you can tell, this interview was definitely not a conventional interview because of the format. And so we didn't get a ton of time to build a ton of context, but luckily everybody already knows who Shaq is. So we just kind of dove into the first question, which was about the viral video thing. And this was probably my favorite answer just because when you get to connect with people that are like this, that have a platform and opportunity where they can actually make a difference in people's thought processes, I want to know what they're thinking. Like what are the things that go through his mind when he's looking at the world the way that it is right now? And so when he brought up the definition of, or that he would put the viral message all about respect, that made a lot of sense to me. And it was kind of refreshing because he didn't go into he didn't go into any direction that was, super political. It just turned into like, no matter what your political background, your religious beliefs, no matter what you think is true and what you think is false, we should all respect each other. And that is a message that I think would drive a lot of change if people truly tried to do their best to adopt that rather than judging everybody now. And he brought up the vaccine situation as a example of what he meant by that. With zero prompting from me, I was trying to,
it's like, well, if you want a viral video, you got it.
Yeah, right. And that did end up getting a ton of views on Instagram and TikTok and everything. But he brought that up as an example of what he meant by mutual respect and how that lives itself out, like in our current daily lives. So I thought it was an interesting perspective that he brought to the table. And I appreciate him being willing just to state his opinion instead of holding stuff like that to himself and being afraid of the backlash.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I really liked him saying it's not my responsibility to change you. Like my job is just to respect you. And I think that's easy. Like even within the clip, like we're talking about stuff like agree or disagree with certain things. And like it's very easy to just get super like tribal about what I think, or like, oh, he said that one thing. Like there's probably somebody that listened to this episode that heard him say that about vaccines and was like, I'm done with the episode, like, and it's like, and even at this table, like there's probably things he said we would all have different nuances on and stuff. But I like that idea of just like, my job is just to respect you, not to just change every person that disagrees with me. Cause I couldn't change the two people sitting here, as much as I try.
Yeah. To no avail.
I've tried.
So let me flip the script here. Jackie, if you could have one video go viral, what would you want it to be?
Shaq calling me hot.
That already got some views, so next.
Wow. If I could have a viral video go live. I don't know. Pass.
Pass? Good answer.
Are we not allowed to pass in this situation?
We didn't establish rules, but it would help the episode if there was some content in it.
Yeah, usually you talk about things and that becomes episodes.
I'm going to start doing that on podcast interviews. So someone asks me something, pass.
Listen, you guys have
next, please.
Option,
oh my God, are you crying?
Next, please. Pass.
So how about skip and we'll come back.
Eric, if you could have a message go viral, what would that message be?
Pass. We're just going to be in tears just passing, and you'll have to carry this. No,
this question's so hard.
No, honestly, not to steal from Shaq.
But that's exactly what I was going to say, though. And I feel like that's a lame answer.
Well, no,
but I'm
going to say specifically, though, like I think the one part of it that I would steal would be stopping time and being different sides. Because I think that that's one thing you said that I really respected was this idea of like stopping and putting yourselves in the shoes of other people. And I was doing an interview yesterday with somebody about like social media polarity, and we were talking about, people hating each other, disagreeing. And he kept saying over and over again, which I thought was good, like, if I grew up like them in their context, like he said, their context as, I think in his example, he was saying like a person of color growing up in Southern California is a different experience of me growing up in a majority white community as a white guy in the Midwest. You know what I mean? So like he was saying like, it's easy for me to read a comment and assume that they mean it the way that I would mean it if I said that same thing. And I think that ability to stop time and go, what are they saying from their perspective versus how am I interpreting their words to mean, something that that's not, this sentence makes no sense. How do they intend it versus how would I mean it if I said it that way? I think that's a really huge thing. So I think something probably along those lines. But honestly, my other answer is just, I don't think that I'm ready to go viral because I don't have enough figured out to feel comfortable saying, here's my message to the
here's
world.
what everybody should do.
I don't think there's something that would heal the world, outside of maybe just let's respect each other, not, kill each other.
Right.
That's why I feel like Shaq's though made so much sense and like resonated with me though because of that. Because it wasn't like it was respecting every side. I feel like that's the biggest thing we are missing like in this time. So
especially the Democrats. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Sure. If you
Fuck
agree.
those guys. For me, it's very much along the same lines. I was just going to say something about context and perspective, which is basically what you were saying, but I don't remember the first time where I really realized that this was the kind of crux of all of the arguments that I had witnessed growing up and the debates and everybody at each other's throats all the time and this person being upset at that person. We can't communicate with them because they believe this and we can't associate with them because they believe this. And, you can't talk to that person or else you might be like this. And it is a position that assumes the worst in people and doesn't assume the best in people and operates without any context or perspective into how that person is living life. And I think that we, have this sort of arrogance about us, and we meaning all of us, because we think that we are us because we chose to be us. Mm-hmm. And in some sense, that's true to a certain extent. Yeah. But the majority of the reason that we are who we are is because of the way that we grew up, the influences that were around us growing up, the culture that we lived in, what mattered to the people around us started to matter more to us. What didn't matter to us. We are a combination of all of the things that we've been exposed to over the course of our lives. And it's impossible to fully understand somebody's opinion when you don't fully understand where they came from. And I think that if we all had a little bit more openness and perspective in people's lives, and that's why I love this medium so much, because not to beat a dead horse, but that's why I think people like Joe Rogan, and not just him, but people like him are necessary voices in the world that we live in, because almost everything else is just sound bites. It's a 3-minute interview on CNN or a 2-minute segment on Fox that somebody gets. And all you hear is their polarizing opinion because the network knows that that's what's going to get people to view it, click on it, share it, whatever. It's going to get their people who are watching live to make it through the commercial break to the next clip. Like they're feeding into your psychology. They're not helping us become better people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know exactly what it would be. And to your point, I kind of feel like I don't know enough to have I wouldn't choose myself to have a message to go viral for the whole world to see. I would probably pick somebody else. But if I did,
and honestly, it probably shouldn't even be Shaq.
Yeah. I mean, probably. Yeah.
I don't know who that person would be, but
it'd be a small, it would be a fragment of the population or a fraction of the population that would be able to, I think,
articulate it.
To articulate well enough. Cause that's my thing is, I don't know. It would be something about that though. It'd be something about context or perspective. I always wanted to, like, a book that I've written down as an idea to write in the future is A World Without Context, because I think that context matters so much and it's rarely applied anymore. And people just form opinions like that, the drop of a hat, without having any context. And that is a unproductive and negative way of going through life, in my opinion.
Speaking of forming opinions, have you formed an answer?
Honestly, that would be my opinion, though. I feel like I'm trying to think of like the relevance to like where we are in life right now. And I feel like that's why with the respect thing, I just feel like in life right now with me trying to figure things out and not having, I don't feel like at this point, I just don't have super strong opinions in other places, but like that is one that like I try to think of the way I want to raise my kids and what I'd want to go viral for them to see in the future. And I think it would be respect, like not trying to like steal what he said, but I just feel like that's the one thing that respects all opinions, that if everybody could just do that, like I feel like I could learn so much from so many different people. And honestly, that's what I've tried to adapt the most in the last year and a half of my life, is being willing to see other people's opinion. Because obviously the way that I was raised, I didn't. Like I had such a biased opinion on everything that I'd listen. I wasn't really listening though. And I was just, listening to know what I was going to say next, not really listening and caring about what they were saying. And so respecting, but I feel like that at its core is respecting somebody. And so I feel like if that was something, I would just definitely agree with him on that, which I know is lame to steal his answer, but that really would be what I would want.
Well, your answer kind of makes me think about it is like I think we're kind of doing the thing that we most would share. You know what I mean? Like of all things. Yeah. Is that dumb? I said that's stupid. But I think we're doing the thing though that we would most want to share. And I think, I was like,
what do you mean? Like having conversations?
Yeah. Like, well, I think, I was thinking about, I was showing you that like the Brian Callen, Theo Von thing. And like, and it was like it's a emotional clip, but then like I was thinking about it in our context of this show. And, like just driving here this morning, I was like thinking about, I was like, man, I wish that this show existed for me like 6 months ago. You know what I mean? Because like it is such a lonely thing. And I think the biggest message, I guess if I can change my answer, would be like what you're kind of hitting at, which is like, you're not alone and everyone feels like this. Yeah. Like everybody's trying to figure it out. And I think that's why we haven't even launched the show yet as of this recording. Obviously when you're listening, it's been launched, but like social media people are going, I can't wait. Like I want someone to talk about this. I want someone to share this. I want someone to say this. I'm scared to talk about this. Like, and I think that's really cool.
Well, I think that's exactly the reason we started the show, is we all felt that way. Yeah.
We're all very confused.
It's, but it's more confusing to go through it alone. And it feels shitty. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I feel crazy.
You just have a tendency to just internalize it and keep it to yourself because you think other people are going to look at you like you're a crazy person. Yeah. And that was my problem, is especially when it comes to some of the religious things that I had questions about, was whenever I would bring it up to somebody, I was always afraid that they were going to laugh at what I thought could be true. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, you kind of also have a crazy belief system. Yeah. So like if growing up, it was, as an independent fundamental Baptist, you'd hear about something like Mormonism or Scientology, and it would be like, what? That's crazy. They believe that? What a ridiculous thing to believe. And never taking a look at what I believed and being like, oh, there's absolutely zero hard evidence for the things that I believe, just as much as there is for the things that they believe. Camp.
Yeah.
Right. Saying like, they believe that. Yeah. Can you believe what they're wearing? Like everybody's just casting stones. Like, dude, we would have people in town, like family members that weren't a part of our church or denomination, and they would come for a graduation or wedding ceremony or something like that. And then people would get up on stage and like talk shit about Catholics or talk shit about Mormons or whatever. And it was like, there's people in this audience that you're just mocking, openly mocking.
Church service.
Like, but the problem that I have with that is that anytime somebody mocks your belief, it's sacrilegious and that person's going to hell, and only fools make a mock at sin. And how dare you, make fun of my belief system. And funny enough, I first realized that about myself watching Family Guy, which I knew I wasn't supposed to be watching, but it was hilarious. So I watched it anyway. And I would laugh at all the other jokes, but anytime they made a joke about like God or Jesus or anything, it was like, you can make fun of Muslims, that's okay. But if you make fun of me, it's like, hurts deeply. And it's like, how dare you mock the thing that I believe, But then that started affecting me a little bit, which speaks to, I think, the power of comedy as well as an art form, but that's a different discussion. It started affecting me and making me realize what I was doing to other people. It was like, oh, that doesn't feel good to have my beliefs made fun of. So maybe I should think twice before I just go mock other people's beliefs to their face or use it as a sermon illustration when I'm preaching to like make fun of a Catholic person
or be
whatever.
an equal opportunity jokester like a Family Guy and
Yeah,
make fun
right.
of everything.
Well, and exactly, that's my point. Is like if you're gonna be the Baptist preacher to go make fun of Catholics, then you better be totally fine with people making fun of you for the things that you have wrong or the things that are weird and eccentric about your belief system. Like if you're going to make fun of people, that's like, honestly, I'm cool with that. I'm a big fan of comedy. And I think that a lot of that stuff like makes us not take ourselves seriously and allows us all to live better, happier lives. Yeah. But my point in saying that is the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy was something that I think is now deep rooted inside of me that it makes me really not like somebody if I detect any notes of hypocrisy in the way that they live their life. It's just like, nah, I'm not gonna fuck with this person. It's not somebody I want to be around.
Yeah. Well, that was the first question. No, I think really moving onward, like I don't think we need to break down each and every one, but I am curious to know, like outside of that segment, because I think we would all agree that was a pretty powerful segment to happen 2 minutes into the conversation. What was the maybe highlight of the episode for you? We already know what yours is. But go ahead, get it out of the way.
Another way to bring it up.
No, but you're like, perfect. No, but what stood out to you? Like, was there a story shared? Was there a principle he shared that?
The parenting thing was good because I genuinely respect the way that he parents. If you follow him at all, you'll see. I think recently there was something that went viral or a clip of him talking about his kids or something, and he made the distinction that he said something like I'm rich, you guys aren't rich, or like I have a lot of money, you guys don't have a lot of money. And
you told me that when I came over today. I was setting up and you were like counting money in front of me and you were like, I'm rich. You're not.
That's my whole point is
it
make
was
people
a
feel bad about the money they don't have.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. No, I respect that he cares more about instilling principles and values in his kids and teaching them how he got his money, not just handing them piles of cash and saying like, all right, now you don't have to do anything. Yeah. And I frankly am still kind of forming my opinion about that. But it's good to hear from people like him who have already formed their opinion and kind of made their decision on that. Yeah. Obviously our kids are still really small, 1 and 2 years old, but it's something that I think about. How much do I want to give to them versus how much do I want them to earn? And how do you
struggle?
Yeah. Like how do you, as a parent, you don't want to see your kids struggle, but also as a parent, you have to let your kids struggle because that's what makes you the struggle is what makes things worth it. The struggle is what makes you become the person that is capable of earning those things. That's why you see so often professional athletes or lottery winners that go broke after they had that big cash injection because they didn't do the work to earn that amount of money. So they don't know what it takes to keep it or multiply it or put it to work. Like they don't understand the foundational principles of those things. And so they take it for granted. And then all of a sudden when that thing goes away, it's like, oh, well, how do I get that back? Yeah. And they can't.
No, it's a hard balance. Like that's something like there's stuff that, I don't have as much money as Shaq, but like, it's cool. Like my daughter gets to do things that I never would have been able to do and like get put in stuff that I never would have been able to get put in, get newer clothes and all that kind of stuff. Right. And it's like, same thing. You want to go through the struggle because that builds character, super dad mode there. But then also part of working hard, I think individually is like, oh, so my kids don't have to go through stuff I went through,
Well, and I think it's necessary though too. Like, the illustration of the butterfly always comes to my mind because that's, I think, what makes it make a lot of sense is there. I mean, the story is of a little girl who captures a cocoon. She found a cocoon and put it in a jar, put it in a room, and was waiting for the butterfly to come out of the cocoon. And then she saw that a little crack in the cocoon, happened, and the butterfly starts to come out of the cocoon, but it was struggling to get out of the cocoon. So she opens the jar and grabs the cocoon and just cracks it open and lets the butterfly out. because she saw that it was struggling getting out. And then the story goes that butterfly just sat in the jar for the rest of its life, because this turns out the struggle of getting out of the cocoon is what strengthens the wings enough to be able to fly. And it's a perfect illustration of how it is with kids, is that you have to let them struggle, because not only is that just like, oh, it's good for them. It's like, no, that's everything. That's what allows you to be able to become the person that you need to become. And that doesn't mean that you just like kick them out on the streets when they're 12 years old and say, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, you obviously, your job is still to protect and provide. But mixing in a good amount of, hey, like, dad's not going to be there for you on this one. No. Like, you're going to have to figure this one out, you know, and maybe watching from a distance. Like, I don't know what the answer is. You know, all I know is that it's necessary. And I don't want to spoon feed my kids everything, because they're just going to grow up to be spoiled brats instead of grow up to be contributing members of society who do bigger things. Like, I think it's my job as a parent to equip my kids to do bigger things than I ever thought was possible for me. Yeah. And in order to do that, they're gonna need to go through the struggle. You know, now that with Build Your Network, I'm coming up on 1,000 episodes of that show now. We've interviewed a ton of people. And that's almost always a common denominator with successful people, is like, they have a crazy story. They have something that they went through that was like not ideal at the time and that you wouldn't pick out for anybody. But because they went through that, it taught them how to go make other things happen. Yeah. And that's just such a valuable lesson that I feel like as a parent, it's just this super weird dichotomy where it's like, I don't want to see my kids struggle because obviously I love them. But at the same time, if I truly love them, then I have to let them struggle. And it actually becomes selfish for me to not let them struggle, because that's not what's best for them. And then I'm only doing it because it makes me feel bad, right? Like, I feel bad as a parent to watch my kids struggle. So therefore I'm going to help them because I feel like a bad parent. And it's like, well, that's not what makes you a bad parent. Giving into that feeling is kind of what makes you a bad parent, you know, like giving into the feeling of, well, I'll just do it. I'll just, take care of it for them. I'll solve all their problems. And it's like, yeah, that makes you feel good, but that's not what's best for your kid. Like, they need to develop their own skills. They need to go through the struggle so they can come out on the other end and feel good about the thing that they accomplished, and understand what failure is, and that failure is not just okay, but it's expected, and that it's a necessary part of success. And like, all of that is okay. And it's okay to feel bad, and it's okay to cry because you failed, or it's okay to, get down on yourself because you didn't make the team or whatever it is. But like, next time, now you know what it takes to make it past that. You know what I mean? And all those lessons are really important. And so when you hear somebody like Shaq that comes in and talks about it in that direct of a way, where somebody like him, who's worth multiple 9 figures at this point, I don't know if he's crossed $1 billion yet, but he's probably worth $500 million at least. If I were just guessing, like, you take someone like that who came from, poverty type of a family situation and now has all that money, and then his kids grow up with him, and then he's saying like, hey, that's not your money. That's dad's money. Like, I worked for that. I learned how to manage that. Like, he went back and got his PhD after he was in the NBA. Like, he didn't have to do that. He went back, graduated from college, got his master's, then got a doctorate. He is Dr. Shaquille O'Neal. You know what I mean? And now he owns hundreds of franchises. He's a investor and makes millions of dollars still from just endorsement deals and hosting NBA events and all this crazy stuff. So he's just like, look, this is my money. This isn't your money. You got to go learn how to go do these things. And I'm happy to be the one to help you do that, but you're still going to have to do it.
What about you? Pass? Would you like to pass on?
Yeah, pass. No, I'm going to pass on some. Parenting is something that I feel like I'm pretty passionate about. And that was one of the things too. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit on the side, but it is something that when he was talking about how he treats his daughter and his son differently. And I thought that was super interesting, because I feel like the woman in me is so like protective of that, because I feel like growing up, you always want to go, and we joke around about it, but he's always like, like Kim can date when he's 16, but like Cassidy, she needs to be 30 when she can start dating. And so I always go like, yeah. And that's my point exactly. But at the same time, I mean, we were literally in the car the other day, and we've talked about a million times over that I can turn around and like say something to Cameron and like even raise my voice at Cameron, and he doesn't flinch at all. And then Travis will literally turn around and just talk to him, but like say it sternly, and Cameron will just burst out into tears. So it's interesting on that, like on that perspective, same. I feel like there is definitely a difference in how you treat guys and girls with having, I mean, we got lucky. Obviously we have a boy and a girl, so we can like see them, and very close in age as well. So we can see how to treat them differently. But I don't know. It was one of the points that like, I definitely think there is truth to it for sure. But to your credit, what we were talking about earlier is that I do think that you have to be careful with doing that too, of not treating them differently because it's a boy and a girl, as in any context either, you know?
Well, I don't think that was the one thing I wish I would have clarified a little bit more in the interview. If I would have had more time, was that I don't know if that he meant that you shouldn't be tough on your girls, but the way that you discipline them should be different.
Should be different. Yeah, that's fair.
Because he was saying in the interview that he just like grabbed his baby girl's hand and he slapped his own hand.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even slap her. He
Yeah.
like grabbed her hand and slapped his hand and just made a loud noise and she started crying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Shaq is Shaq though too.
Oh, sure. There's a
I
little
would
bit
cry.
taken into
I
account.
would probably cry if you grabbed my hand just out of pure fear.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but
That's fair. But you look at somebody also like a Molly Bloom, and
Yeah, that's
in
fair.
her story, I mean, even if you just watch the movie, but if you read the book and talk to her, you know, her dad was extremely tough on her.
Yeah.
But now that they've kind of reconciled later on in life, she finds out that like, well, my dad was a clinical psychologist and he understood that life as a woman was going to be a lot more difficult if I wanted to be successful.
Yeah.
And so he put me through the ringer, and I mean, look at her now, you know what I mean? It's hard because now it's hard as a parent. Cause like, I don't want to have a distant relationship with my daughter until she's 30 and realizes it was all for good, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and it's hard
but at the same
because-
time, I don't want her to like think that she's less than, or that she's not, you know, capable of something because she's like, I want to be just as tough on her as I am on Cameron, on my son, because like, I want her to grow up and feel to be that like strong woman that can make anything happen in today's world, you know.
Yeah, but
and
that's
hopefully by the time she's 20, it'll be a little bit different of a world.
Yeah.
But
But
anyway,
that's
sorry.
what's terrifying about parenting, though, is that it's like you look at Molly Bloom, for example. It's like, yeah, look at her now, but then you're like, look at all the trauma
Yeah, you had to
results
work through.
instantly.
Right. Yeah.
So like that's what's scary, and that's where I think it's like, and I think again, like it's all nuanced too, and like I understand his perspective, but then that's where I get scared, especially how we grew up, like the binary that exists of like, you know, men can take it, you know, and you have a lot of men that get up and they're just abusive jerks because they never learned how to process emotion,
Yeah.
you know, in a healthy way, because their dads didn't have the heart to heart versus being
Yeah.
tough. And then you've got girls who are like, you know, they're trained to be these submissive, passive, like everyone's soft on you. So it's like, but either way, there's these things that happen where it's like, you know, you see kids that grew up with people that had the heart to hearts that are crazy and have gone off the rails, and the other people that got tough parenting. We know a lot like that who got the tough parenting and the spankings and the whatever borderline abuse in some cases. And, you know, those people just broke their spirit, and, you know, it's like, or, you know, or vice versa, just didn't do anything, didn't solve the problem. So yeah, it's all nuanced, but I think, yeah, like that was the only thing that he said where I was like, you know, that binary, you know, cause everybody I think is different, you know,
Yeah.
like,
That's
Well-
the thing. I think it's a personality thing half the time. It's
I
not
was just
even
going
a
to say that
gender
we've
thing.
talked about that 1,000 times over. Like that's the scary part about parenting, is that you, like, no matter how we raise them, we could raise them and think that like we did an amazing job. We could look back and be like, yeah, we got like a 98 score on parenting, and they're going to go through therapy when they get older, most
start a
likely
podcast
about
and go,
like how we
My
screwed
mom
them
and dad.
up though. But it's true. They will. And like something will do, whether you over love them. And we've talked to someone recently, like you can go through, like you can love them too much to where then they look for love in every relationship that needs to be that extreme to where then you set them up for failure that way. Like everything
Yeah,
you
it was
do.
funny. I had a friend that I was talking to about it. I won't say their name because I didn't ask. But they said they were going through therapy and they knew they had a bunch of issues with their dad growing up. And that was the subject of a lot of therapy sessions. But then it was surprising to them to find out that their mom actually caused some of it. And they were like, yeah, my mom was always encouraging and just affirming and telling us how awesome we were and how proud she was of us and all this stuff. But then now fast forward to having a real relationship with somebody, like an intimate relationship with somebody. And I started realizing that that's what I come to expect of everybody in my life. And I feel now I feel like somebody doesn't like me because they're not giving me all of these validations and affirmations all the time about how awesome I am or how much they love me. And that's not a direct reflection of that person. That's because that's how I think a good relationship should be. And that's just not how all of them end up fleshing themselves out, even though that person probably still does love me. Yeah. You know, it was just like it was so funny when I was talking to them, because I was like, that's a perfect thing to talk about on the show, because it's just like, it's an embracing of the imperfect and just understanding as a parent, no matter how much you're trying and you think that you're doing as best as you possibly can,
you're screwing them up.
At the end of the day, something's going to be messed up that they're going to be talking to their therapist about in 20 years. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, but that also puts the burden back on you to do your best to become that best version.
But yeah, like I want my daughter to be able to go to therapy and talk about the issues that I caused. Yeah. And I also want her to be able to talk to me about it. And also, you know what I mean? Have that relationship. And I think that's really cool. Like I haven't had that consistently with my family, but that's been something we've been able to do, is like, hey, that really hurt me. Or, you know, like we've talked about with like churches, like, hey, this weird thing happened. I didn't know about that. Okay, let's talk about it, you know, and not being terrified of like what's going to happen when I bring it up. Sure. But yeah, that was a cool clip. And I think my favorite section was probably his story, just investing in Google. I thought that was a cool story. And I hope someday when I'm playing with someone's kid, you know, they'll be like, hey, we're doing this thing. And it'll be like the next big thing. It helps if you're Shaq though, I guess.
And if you have a bunch of leftover money that you don't care if you ever
when
see
I have
again.
In this situation, I've got leftover NBA money ready. Yeah. So it's a hypothetical.
Eric, the NBA player, I can see it now.
Wow. I feel
just had a very great visualization in my head.
There's an attack.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, wrapping up, I mean, I think there was a lot of good content, probably a lot better content in like 11 minutes than some do in 40.
That is fair.
Because every answer I gave, I thought was really, really solid. And, I mean, in conclusion, Jackie, your biggest takeaway from the entire thing
is that Shaq thinks I'm hot.
There you go.
Yeah. He's not wrong, Jackie.
Are you jealous, low key?
I could not be less jealous.
Like, he's your hero.
Flattered, it's your wife.
No, I'm saying he's your hero. Do you wish he had said you were hot?
Oh, well, yeah.
Dude, you would have been so proud. I can imagine you'd be like, cut that clip now, post it. But, you know, Shaq didn't get to see me at all. And I think I would have had a shot. Shoot your shot, Shaq. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode.
If you're listening, you get anything out of this, just a laugh or an insight or something like that, then be sure to give us a rating and review on whatever app you're listening to this on. Actually, there's only two that you can do that on, which is Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a share. We want to know from you guys what you want us to discuss, talk about on the show, what guests you want us to bring on, what topics you want us to talk about. So if you head over to figuringitout.tv, you can sign up for our newsletter, which will also be our Facebook group. So you can find a community of other people that are also just trying to figure it out. So I look forward to connecting with all of you guys over there.